Welcome to What Do You Say, the podcast that peels back the layers of remarkable individuals to reveal their extraordinary sides and their incredible lives. I'm your host, Frank Termini, and I'm absolutely thrilled to embark on this journey with you. The podcast name's What Do You Say? But that's not how it's said.
How do you say it?
We say.
What do you say?
We say.
What do you say?
We say.
It's fine.
You got it. We say. So I have Anne Walton, who tell me the name of the 501c3 you started.
Yes. So I started KCMO Angels.
KCMO
we
Angels.
We are a chapter of the National Angels Network. So the National Angels Network started in Austin, Texas, and I founded and opened up the chapter here locally in Kansas City.
Okay, so you 100% have balls.
Yes, I guess I do.
Yeah, you're not risk adverse for sure. So here, let's start here.
Quit my job, did all the things.
Right. So you grew up in St. Louis.
I did. Yeah.
Okay.
You guys don't like that over
What?
here.
Well, I don't mind St. Louis. So what school did you go to in St. Louis?
I went to Kirkwood High School.
Kirkwood. Okay.
Yeah, that's the big question.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of private schools out there too.
Oh, there's a million.
There's
yeah. So
CBC.
I went to Catholic grade school. So it's Catholic grade school, and it was a big fight in my house to go to public high school.
So there's CBC.
Oh,
there's
a million.
There's Cardinal Ritter. There's St. John Vianney.
Oh, there's 20. There's 20 all boys schools within.
Chaminade.
Like,
how do you say that?
Chaminade.
Chaminade. And that.
Shannon's got a St. Louis tie too, which is just so funny.
So you're from. So Chaminade's. But it's for the Blessed Mother, isn't it?
Oh, that I don't know.
Oh, no, but I think it has something to do with the Blessed Mother, big time. Hold on, now you're gonna make me Google it. It's gonna bother me. How do you spell it?
Well, it's private. But I don't know up to what religion. People that lived around me went to Vianney. They went to CBC. They went to what was the one that was downtown? And then the girls' schools. There's all these all girls schools, and there's all these all boys schools, and they're all Catholic. Like the school choice over there in that realm is so different than over here if you choose to go to a private school.
Wait a second.
I live in the Northland.
College prep. You spell it with a CH.
Aminda.
Catholic Marianist identity. So hold on. This Marianist, I believe, has something to do with the Blessed Mother. Hold on. I'll tell you right now. It's going to bother me.
We're going to learn all about the Catholic schools.
Chaminade mission. Let's go here. A mission statement.
Yeah, I don't know. I remember where it's at.
There you are. I knew it had something to do with the Blessed Mother. It's Marianist. It's saying independent Catholic resident school sponsored by Marianist province in the United States is dedicated to develop the inherent spiritual, intellectual, and emotional, physical potential of young men in 6th through 12th grade, so they are prepared for success in college. Marianist, I don't know what that means. Educating for formation in faith to encourage and help.
Well, and I didn't go to Catholic high school, so
to present Marianist heritage as a viable, dynamic approach to the living gospel. Huh. Yeah, I don't know. But I knew there was, okay. So yeah, I knew it had something to do with the Blessed Mother. I didn't know it was all boys though. But here, the socioeconomic, like Wentzville.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like Johnson County.
Yeah,
they have a lot, those people have a lot of money out there.
Yeah, there is a lot of money in St. Louis.
Well, and here, to be able to support, I mean, between CBC, Cardinal Ritter, Chaminade, St. John Vianney. I mean, that's like 4 Rockhursts.
Well, that's what I think, that question of like how you grew up. I grew up very middle class. Both my parents worked. I grew up with an amazing work ethic of whatever you want in life, you have to go work for. My dad always told me, you're a woman, you're going to have to work harder. And you cannot just go marry some rich man. Like, you have to take care of yourself.
Right.
But I realize now we were middle class, but that particular city, I never felt like, I felt like there were all these rich people around me. And now I realize we were well off. We were fine. I never wanted for anything. I mean, that's my biggest blessing in life is I hit the jackpot with just having a very average, normal life.
I had the most like Leave It to Beaver life when I was a
well,
kid.
that's what Kirkwood is, where I grew up. That's what my husband makes fun of it. He's like, that is Leave It to Beaver Central Day.
It literally,
White picket fence.
the nuclear family, my mom and dad. My dad worked, my mom stayed home. We were fortunate enough to do that. My mom probably should have worked, because as I've got older, I realized my dad probably gave us things he shouldn't have. If you know what I'm saying. But he did without to make sure we had what we needed and what we really wanted. I mean, his rule with us here, if you're playing sports and you get good grades, I don't want you working.
Yeah.
And then if we wanted to go out with our buddies, go to the show, he gave us money. When we turned 16, we didn't get a brand new car. I turned 16 in 1994. Yeah, hold on. Yes, 1994, and I drove a 1986 Cavalier, but I didn't pay for it. If I needed gas, he gave it to me.
Yeah.
When I went on a date or when I went to homecoming.
Yeah, it's a real blessing that I think
I was
just have
fortunate.
to realize as you get older. You don't really realize it until you do.
Yeah. Oh, I actually realized it at a pretty young age that my dad worked his ass off to give us things that and that he really probably shouldn't be giving them to us. As far as like, I mean, I think he gave us things he really couldn't afford to give us.
Yeah.
And my mom used to have to go buy him stuff because he wouldn't go buy anything for himself. He was just that type of guy.
Both my parents worked, and they both had very corporate sales jobs. I mean, my mom was a working woman in the 80s, which if you've seen that movie Working Girl, like that's literally what my mom looked like when she left the house. That's what she had to deal with.
Yeah. It's hard.
I feel blessed that those things were always instilled in me just growing up. Like I attribute a lot of my success and strengths based off of how I was raised, which is
for sure
kind of ties into this whole foster care thing, is when you think about how lucky you are just because of your start in life.
Yeah.
It's we're not all fair and we're not all equal, and it shouldn't determine a child's future just because I was born into this family and they were born into that one.
I don't disagree. And, I think I really commend people who take foster kids, because if I take a kid, I'm not giving them back.
Yeah, and that is sadly not the goal of foster care.
No,
and it's I've learned that.
and that takes a special person to be able to do that.
And what's funny is I learned this the first year. They hate being called special. They really do. Because
foster kids?
No, children, parents that are fostering. They have such a hard time, because that's what I was approaching. I knew nothing about foster care when I started this. And so I connected with some foster families, some foster moms, and every time I was like, oh my God, you're so amazing. You're doing such great work. And I still feel that way. They are. But I realized very quickly they don't like that attention, and they actually just want people to see they're not doing anything that big of a deal. They're literally just loving on a kid that happened to show up on their doorstep, just like you or I would. They just like brought the doorstep to them.
So
it's interesting.
Educate me. I was so interested. I do want to get into the foundation, and I definitely want to get into that. But educate me on this process.
Yeah.
Okay. As far as of the whole foster system, and educate me on pros and cons of it, and how these kids get themselves into this system, and how parents and what type of vetting. I'm sure the state has to do some type of vetting in order for you to become a foster family.
Yeah.
And those types. And then tell me this. What made you change directions and move into this? Where were you? What happened? What was your aha moment?
Well, I'll tell you.
I asked a whole lot of questions there.
It's okay. I'm right there with you. I love talking about foster care because I knew nothing about it, almost 4 years ago. So I had to start from scratch and learn, and I'm not an expert on it, and I don't work for an agency. And I'm not at the front line. There's lots of other organizations in town, and every town that are. So what I can tell you is through my lens of research, and then through the lens of the families that we serve through our programs. But what I can tell you is basically what happens is somebody calls on a kiddo that they are either being abused, They're not living in safe conditions. They're in trouble. They're either around drugs, they're being sexually assaulted, they're a million reasons. So you've heard of like hotline, like a child gets hotlined, and hotlines happen all the time, and they do not all turn into foster care. It has to be really, really bad for a child to enter foster care. Like your worst nightmare bad for a child to finally get put into foster care.
And they probably need to lower that standard.
That I am not going to share any of my opinions on, because that's not what we do. Our goal at Angels, which I'll tell you about in a second, is we support the kids that are in the system. And this is why I loved our organization so much, is the foster care system in this country is so broke. It is so broken. Because nobody is going to the top of the river and finding out why these kids are falling in. They're just pulling them out, and they're trying to figure out what to do. There are 400,000 children in the United States right now in foster care. There's 2,000 here in Kansas City. And it's a very broken system. And there's a million reasons why it's broken. But, kind of going back to your whole, you want to know how these kids get there. So they get removed from their home, and then they go to an agency. And that agency then says, we're going to find you a foster home. And that agency has to pull up a list of all of their licensed foster parents, which is always too small. We never have enough. So your question about training, if you want to be a foster parent, and I wish everyone would, that's something, if you ever have a calling to do that and you're hearing this, there's a million agencies at town, Cornerstones of Care, Foster Adopt Connect, Crittenton, there's a million. Google it, you can find those people. We always need more foster parents, but they only have the short list of those that have been trained. It takes anywhere from 6 months to a year to get fully trained, depending on what you want to do. But you basically you sign up. You say, I want to foster. You have to go to all these classes. You have to have all these background checks. They have to make sure you don't have like a fire extinguisher, that you have a fire extinguisher in your house, all these things. It's very, very rigorous to become a foster parent. So then you're finally a foster parent, and then the kiddo gets placed in your home. And the sad reality is that over 50% of foster homes close their doors to fostering after just 1 year. So they go through all that work, they go through all that training, they're excited, they tell their neighbors, we're going to be foster parents, and they close their doors. And when you ask
What's the reason?
them why, they say we're under-supported and this is too hard. And that is where we come in.
You're also dealing with kids who have a lot of trauma.
Yeah, it's
and that brings a lot of baggage with it, mental.
It's here's what we like to say and what I've seen. It's hard, but it's so worth it. And I'll tell you why. Because not a single one of the foster parents that are in our programs that aren't quitting, that are still fostering, their lives are better because of these kids. It's not easy. They're all going to tell you it's really, really hard, and they need as much support as they can get. But what I always want it's a delicate message, because I want people to understand it's hard, so they need support, but I don't want them to be scared enough to not foster.
What percentage of these kids are coming from physical and or sexual abuse?
So here's what I can talk to. I can talk to the statistics that we are preventing one kiddo at a time. I don't know that I have the answer to that exact one, but I'll go back to the beginning of how I learned about this. So I was at a women's conference, had nothing to do with foster care. And before the first break, they literally said, we're going to show you a clip from our favorite nonprofit. So I'm like, okay, great. And I watched a 2-minute video on foster care, what the National Angels organization is doing about it, and the horrible statistics that surround children the moment they enter foster care.
What statistics?
The minute a child enters foster care, children in foster care only have a 50% chance of graduating high school. They only have a 3% chance of going on to graduate college. 66% of our local Kansas City, Missouri homeless population has spent time in foster care. There is a direct pipeline to incarceration. There are studies that show that if they've moved 5 or more times in foster care, they will be in jail. Like, it's just a given. Girls that are in foster care are twice as likely to have a teenage pregnancy than those that are not. the human trafficking. They're like the number one targeted human traffic group. The list, I could go on and on. We literally have a document that has 28 statistics that we speak about.
You got to
all the time.
watch some of these podcasts. I had Russ Tuttle.
Oh, yes, I've heard of him.
Yeah.
Yes, I've gone to his website.
And then I had Michelle Newton.
Okay, I don't know her.
Restoration House. It's on Independence Avenue.
Oh.
So it's a house for people who are being trafficked. It's like a safe haven for them.
Oh, yeah. Anything that supports trafficking.
And then I had Scott Titus. So I've attacked this from a bunch of different angles. He works the minor sex trafficking division in the Department of Homeland Security.
Oh,
I had him on.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
I mean, it is.
You know, and I think what you and I would have in common, would really anyone, is if you care about the country we live in, if you care about all these systems and all of these horrible challenges we're facing, and not only that, are costing our country billions, everything has a link to foster care. Literally everything.
Yeah.
And so if you take us back to me in 2019 in this big auditorium of 3,000 women at this conference, I looked around and I'm like, why have I never heard of this? Why have I never heard about these statistics? How is no one talking about this? You know, everybody's talking about breast cancer awareness, equally as important, LLS, these are all great causes. Not saying that, but those are inundated. I mean, you are aware of some of those. This is getting no attention. No one is talking about it. And I looked around that room of the 3,000 women and they all had the same look on their face. Like, oh, I had no idea.
Yeah.
And in the last 4 years, all I talk about are those statistics. And I've yet to speak to an audience where someone's like, oh yeah, I knew that. I knew. They're all like, oh my God, you've got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
So I literally felt a bolt of lightning in my seat that was just like, that's what I'm going to do. And I literally turned to my friends that were there and I just said, I'm going to go do that. And they were like, I'm going to help you do that. Like, I'm not going to do that, but I'm going to help you do that. So I got in touch with the organization and I had to interview and do all the things. And they told me it was a go. And I had to form a board, and you start with no money. Like, you have nothing. So you start from scratch and they give you the blueprints of how to start and run a chapter, which was key for me because I have a lot of drive. I have a lot of gumption. But I needed that. I don't know that I could have just started this from my basement. I mean, I know I couldn't have. So it was a beautiful thing that we have this amazing kind of mothership organization that they kind of guide us, but I get to run this chapter however I see fit. So that was the birth of KCMO Angels. And the reason I was so called to do it was I was just floored that nobody's doing something about it. And I feel that I have to do something. And so many people, I feel like they're not called to foster or adopt. I'm not. I don't think I'll ever be a foster parent. And instead of people just saying, I'm not going to be a foster parent. God, that really sucks. Can't do that. You guys are so amazing. You keep doing that. That's the stigma I'm trying to change.
I could adopt.
Everybody could do something. Everybody could do something.
I don't think I could give. Number one.
But you could bring a meal to a foster family.
Right. Yeah.
Watch a child in foster care so those foster parents could go out for a night and have a break. Yeah. You could mentor a teen in foster care. You could, and that is what it's funny because when I first started this, it was very like, my canned presentation. I'd get up and talk about foster care and this is what we do. And we have the Love Box program. And now it's more this global conversation of, I want you to know about foster care. I want you to know it's a crisis in this country. And somebody needs to do something about it. And guess what? You're somebody. And you don't have to foster. I don't care if you don't want to foster. There's a million other ways that you can help these kids.
Is there a demographic, like what percentage of foster kids are Hispanic? What are Black? How many are white?
There are, but I don't know them.
You don't know.
I don't know them because they don't affect the work that we do here in Kansas City, Missouri. We work with everybody. And again, that is a question that like an agency would know. Right. Because they're actually dealing with the kiddos. But I do get asked all the time, what age? Like how old are
Yeah, that's another good question.
My gosh, yeah, they're every age. There are babies that get left at the hospital. There are babies that get taken out of their mother's womb because the mother is high and is taken. There are teenagers that get removed at 16. There are 4-year-olds. There are sibling sets.
Can you pick
everybody
and say, hey, I'll take this age group? Or if you're
Oh,
gonna
with fostering?
yeah,
Yes, you
you
can
can.
definitely. Oh yeah, you can. It sounds silly. It sounds cliche to quote a Hollywood movie, but the movie Instant Family is a great movie for
I've never
people
seen
to
it.
watch.
Yeah, I gotta watch it.
It's a good movie to watch with your kids. Like my kids love the movie. It's a great movie because one of the producers was a foster parent. So there is nothing in that movie that there are some things that are a little lighter than they probably are in real life, but that is an excellent movie to see what foster care is really like. Like you really go to an agency, you go through training, you get to decide what level of training you want. We have moms that foster only kids with massive disabilities, massive. So that's a list. Then we have parents that only want newborns because maybe they're empty nesters and they just want to kind of be there for babies. But yeah, I mean, what you said, Frank, sadly is not an option. You cannot go into foster care and just say, I just want to adopt. That's an adoption agency. And that is just not the point of foster care because.
So what's the point then? They
Yeah,
obviously do they want, is the goal to get them back to the biological parents?
Yeah,
Okay.
It's taken, that's not the goal always. And it's taken me 4 years to learn my comfort with this because I've really evolved with this. And I can admit that. The most beautiful thing on the planet would be the most horrible thing that could ever happen to a child is they get removed from their biological parents. I don't care how bad they are. That is still their mom and dad. And that is a wound that you can never heal.
It's hard. Yes, I
never.
get. Yeah.
And that kid doesn't know their mom is doing cocaine in front of them. That kid doesn't know that they're being abused. Like you have to look at it through that lens. So the saddest thing is they're separated. So clearly the happiest thing would be is if they get to go back to mom and dad are healthy and have a job and they can find. That's beautiful. That is not what always happens. And I can't speak to how often it does and how often it doesn't. I will be a champion for that always happening, but I'm also a realist. And we often see that doesn't happen. So when that doesn't happen, the goal of foster care is for a child to live in a safe environment until they can go back home and it's safe, or that family can adopt them. We have 1 million families that adopt from foster care. We celebrate adoptions. We like to send them cakes. That's a huge celebration. So you can hope for that, but you can't go into it thinking, I'm going to do this and I want this child badly.
Is a foster program also work on rehabilitation of the biological parent?
A lot is changing
parents
in our state, and our programs team is really alert to the changes that are going on because there is a lot of that's changing. But again, and this is where it's kind of a blessing for me because I really stay in our lane. Our lane is we walk alongside children and families experiencing foster care. So I'm not in charge of the big problem. I'm not in charge of the big process. I'm in charge of every single family and child that's walking through it, making it better for them. And that's what our two programs do.
So so you make it better for the parent and the kid
and the biological siblings.
So let me ask you, so I want to know more about this, but this is something I can't stop thinking about.
It's okay. Foster care is complicated.
Well, yeah, because I'm thinking, okay, I foster a 10-year-old. Okay. Yep. And this 10-year-old was both physically and sexually abused.
Yep.
Okay. And you don't know how long you're going to have them.
Yep.
So in the meantime, we have to still try to heal said 10-year-old.
Yep.
Okay. Who pays for counseling, therapy?
Such a great question.
I mean, is that on the foster parent's dime?
A lot of it. And it's so funny because so many people are like, oh, there's these horrible foster parents and they're living on a farm and they're not. Listen, I'm sure there are some bad foster parents out there. I'm sure there are. I can assure you the ones that are in our program are like the most amazing, coolest people I've ever been around.
So the socioeconomics.
And I'm sorry, go ahead.
You finish.
Well, what I was getting back to is the misconception is what I was leading to. The misconception is these people do this for money. And when
what are they getting?
That to a foster parent, they laugh. They laugh in your face.
What are they getting?
They literally, they get a different level of money. And this all comes from the government, from the state. They get a different level of money for each child based off of like their needs. I mean, they literally have like a ranking. of what kind of money they get. And it comes in, so I think it's monthly. It's you'll understand. I am not the foster care expert, but it's literally, I had one mom, she's like, I get $200 a month for this kid. She goes, have you ever, or for clothes? She goes, have you ever tried to buy back to school clothes? And she goes, and then
you ain't getting anything for $200.
nothing for $200. And then she goes, and then they give us these coupons that can only work at JCPenney. She said, have you ever gone in JCPenney? Do you know how many more clothes I could get at Walmart, at Target? So again, one of the many things that's broken the system, but the amount of foster parents that out of their pocket, are paying for what the kid actually needs is 9 out of 10. That's one of the things that we do is when a family gets hooked up with us, we ask them, like, what are you struggling with? How can we help? And they say, gosh, Jimmy really needs some counseling, but I can't find anybody that'll take Medicare. So can you help us?
It's actually probably Medicaid.
Or Medicaid, I'm sorry. That's what I meant.
No,
Thank
you're
you.
not. And so you're going to have to pay cash.
Yes. And nobody will do that.
Yeah.
So that's like one of our things. Who can we find? We have a whole booklet of resources that we like to show of like this person has been, has signed up to take 5 kids per year, pro bono. So it's all these little things that
which goes by like
parents,
that.
Yes. And
5 kids.
They don't get, there's no like map. That's like the easiest way I can describe it. These foster moms, we had a foster mom earlier this year. She already had 6 in her home and 4 that she was watching, well, her husband and wife, 4 that they were watching years and years and years ago wound up back in care. And so, of course, they're going to say yes. They know these kids. They've been worried about them sick since they went back to bio. And they just get these 4 kids. And they don't know if the kids had their vaccines. And if you don't have your vaccines, you can't get into school. And if you don't have this, it's like there's nobody giving them the map of like, here's the kid. They literally drop the kid off. There's another mom, lives in Liberty. She said her baby literally came to her at her son's baseball game. The caseworker dropped off the baby with a tube in its nose from I think that baby was 6 months old at the time. There's no instruction manual that comes with these kids in foster care. So they get this
instruction
training.
manual for your biological kids.
No, and that's what, trust me, I always talk about my own 2 kids that have the best of the best.
And you also have to take into consideration the mental well-being of your biological kids when you're going to take them.
Which is why we are one of the only programs that we love on the entire family. When we bring a love box, which is one of our programs, to a foster family, and we do that once a month, and we do that through volunteers that bring the box and get to know the family, there is something in there for every single person in that house. The older, we don't care if you're bio, you're foster, you're purple or green. We don't. We are going to love on that entire family. We're going to try to provide more opportunities for that family unit to connect, to grow, to be supported, to be a safe space. Our Dare to Dream Mentor is a mentorship program. And that is so cool because we're seeing these teenagers that not only have said, okay, I'm in this safe space and it's taken me a really long time to be like, okay, this house is safe and maybe I'm going to move again. Maybe I won't. But now I have another healthy adult that's going to be in my life that is telling me I'm not going anywhere. I'm here for you. I'm not running away. So the foster care agencies do a good job they train on, trauma and how to deal with kids with trauma but we do as well. And anytime somebody wants to volunteer with us and they're going to be working with their families, they get a whole level of training from us that, is just all about, it's called TBRI and it's trust-based interventional relational support. And it's how to deal with kids that have trauma.
Yeah. And listen, that physical sexual abuse wound is deep.
Yeah, it's very deep. And then the worst part is, and this is kind of where Angels was born, is that whatever that deep wound is, on average, kids move 7 times in 2 years in the foster care system. So you imagine a wounded little bird being thrown, not a bird, I'm going to say human. You have a human that is wounded and damaged. They are thrown into a foster family that probably doesn't look like them, doesn't live by them. They have to go to a new school. They have to meet new teachers, make new friends. They're usually behind in school because of all the things. And then they finally get comfortable.
And they move.
And then they move. And every time, whatever that original hurt was, it's multiplied by a gazillion.
Well,
And that's when you start seeing these statistics.
At the end of the day, you're also thinking, how is the child interpreting what's happening to them, right? They're in foster care and they have to feel rejected by their biological. Then they leave this foster parent and go to this foster parent. And you said 7 times in 2 years. That's nothing but rejection.
It's nothing but rejection.
So if that's average, then
yeah, it's average, and it's nothing other than they are taught that I can't love anyone because they're just going to leave.
Yeah.
And the amount of times our case managers have to remind our volunteers of that, have to remind our foster parents of that, because these kids, they run, they flee. Even if they physically don't flee, they don't want a relation. They're not trusting. They don't trust anybody.
Why would they?
Yeah.
And so when you have a family who is showing signs of fatigue,
yes,
what is your protocol?
Oh, yeah.
So
we're all there. We're there.
Is your protocol to get the child out, or is your protocol to let's try to keep this kid intact and
no, our goal would always be to eliminate as many moves as possible.
Right. So you're going to try.
And we do. I mean, we will make a call. Like, we have hotlined if we feel there's a need on any level or anything like that. But no, we're not in charge of where. We have zero control over where that kid goes, when they move. And the whole other part of this that we haven't really talked about is the judges and the courts and the role they play in this. Because, so that's, again, it's like I'm the type, I want to help, I want to fix. But if it's too big or it's too messy, I literally freeze. I'm paralyzed. I can't do anything. And that's one of the things I loved about Angels from day one is I could see myself doing it. I could see myself being a love box leader. I could see myself being a Dare to Dream mentor, because it's not that hard. And that is, if we're able to keep just one kid at that home, one family continuing to foster. We had a family last year. She was a mom that was married. They had 2 of their own kids. They decided they wanted to foster. They brought in 2, a sibling set. The husband left. Said, I'm out. I'm divorcing you. Done. So she's now a single mom with these 2 foster children.
You know, I never thought about that, because you're vetting these people, and then all of a sudden they're getting a ton of stress thrown at them, and that is
This foster mom, literally, she got in our Love Box program right away, and she not only has 1 Love Box leader, she has 2. So she has these 2 amazing women that come to her house once a month with a Love Box. And our Love Box, and they fill it with goodies, snacks, essentials, whatever the family needs for that month. But that's just the box. What we really encourage our Love Box leaders to do is to love outside the box. So what these 2 women will do is they will throw a birthday party for one of the kids so that the mom doesn't have to. Or they will take one of the older ones to the main event for an hour or 2 just to get one of the older kids some attention and out of the house. That mom said to us, I would have never continued to foster if I didn't have your program. That for me was like, okay, this works.
Yeah.
I always knew in my heart this would work, but it's hard to get that data on paper. And what's so cool now is 4 years into this, I see it working every day, but our National Angels organization, we invested in a research project. So a 2-year research project was done in 2021, 2022, and we got those results. And so now we have data that shows this is working.
So
really working.
Not all foster parents know about your program.
100%, and they need to. And that's my everlasting goal.
So you said there's 2,000 kids in the KC metro area getting fostered. What percentage of those 2,000 know about Angels?
Not near enough. I would say, I think the last time I looked, it's hard. We measure so many different things. We measure kids that we're serving monthly. We measure kids that we serve one time. There's a lot of little ancillary things we do that we'll have, like a Love Box building event, and we'll have all these Love Boxes, and we'll give them to just anyone in foster care, not just people in our program. We also have a wait list of people. I would say
a wait list of people.
Oh, good question, because I say that's like internal speak. A wait list is a foster family that has raised their hand and said, I want to be in one of your programs. and we simply don't have a volunteer for them. And that
So
is an
each-
everlasting need.
Each family
Yes.
gets a volunteer.
Yes.
So how many families will one volunteer have?
Well, the beauty is we would love for every family to have one Love Box leader or group and one Dare to Dream mentor for every teen in that home. So we
that's a
have a
lot.
family. It is. We have a family right now. I literally went to her house yesterday. She was the family that we showed in our video at our big fundraising event over the weekend. So I went to thank her, and I sat in her house and we chatted for about an hour, and just lovely. And that's why we picked that family, because that family has had a Love Box leader for over a year, and they have a teen set that was brought into their house about a year ago, and both of those teens have mentors. So there are 3 KCMO Angels people loving on this family, and they're a family of 6, and they could still use more help. I mean, you sit in this woman's beautiful home, and she's got 4 children sleeping upstairs, and she gave me her nap time, her precious time, when she gets an hour to herself. Her husband works till 7. So she's like, yeah, dinners are just a lot. And I'm like, I can't even imagine. Like the fact that I've been stressed out over feeding my 2 that are 13 and 9. Crazy.
And so
Like
and the foster parent is going into this with no clue how long they're going to have this child.
Nope. The good ones do it because they need to be a safe space for the kid as long as they need to.
So what happens if you take in a foster kid, the foster kid's 10 years old, and you're like, you know what? Let's put you in baseball.
Uh-huh.
Some type of activity so they can have some fun, play, whatever.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden in the middle of baseball, now they're getting ready to go back to their biological family.
Yeah, they wouldn't get to play.
They'd have to just be done.
Yep. Yeah.
And the ties
And we've seen that happen. We've seen amazing progress happen, and a judge decides that kiddo has to go back to mom and dad, or a judge decides that their case gets moved to a different district. I mean, it's unreal.
Could they take the child from a foster parent and give them to another foster parent?
When you say they, who
the courts?
To? Yes.
Well, that's the most unproductive thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, this is why I'm very just open with my ignorance to, even though I feel like I can speak on foster care, there's so much I don't know and understand, because that's not what we do. We don't license families. We don't. We just know there's an insanely broken system, and we're going to try to help the people that are currently in it.
Yeah, well, I mean, at the end of the day, there's in any discipline, continuity of care is a huge thing.
It's huge.
And then you got a judge who's completely emotionally detached from the situation, and maybe it's better that he or she is.
Well, and all the foster parents will tell you the first question they ask is, what district will I be dealing with? Because each district has different judges, and they all have their what's the word I'm looking for? Like what people think of them.
Right.
What they're known for.
Right.
Like, oh, that judge, he's all about reunification, so they're never going to terminate rights. Or that judge is all for terminating rights. Like, they all speak of this in the foster care community. That's a huge, huge role. And it's a huge stressor on the foster parent, because even if you get into it knowing, okay, I might have to give this child up someday, you still fall in love with the child, and you want what's best for the child.
If you're not falling in love with the child, you're not doing it right.
Yeah. We have a family that's in one of our programs that the child got reunified with mom, and mom, I'm happy to say, is on the right path, doing the right things. The foster mom still sees the boy because she's like, I just want to check in on him.
So they are allowed to do that.
Oh, you can contact all you want.
If the biological parent allows you to.
If they allow it. And this particular mom is, which is great. So that story is great, and we hope that.
Well,
we
because
hope that's the case.
That particular mom, her allowing that shows that she's healing.
Exactly.
Versus because she's understanding, hey, this isn't about me. It's about the child who established a relationship.
Exactly.
So let's not rip that relationship away from them.
Right. But yeah, I could spend hours telling you things that would just make your blood boil. And if you really want to know, talk to a foster parent. They'll tell you.
So what about these stories? Now let's look at the other end of this.
Yeah.
What about these stories where you hear about these kids getting abused in foster care?
Yeah, you hear them. You do. What I've always said to that is we are one more set of eyes on that fostering family.
Right.
We are in their house. We are working with kids.
So
we're in there.
Does
so
the
we're
state
aware of everything.
give your organization certain rights?
No, we don't do anything with
So
the state yet.
So if the foster parent says, "Hey, piss off," you got to piss off.
Well, it's funny. So we have really changed our language, and we've always had this language with volunteers. You have to apply to be a volunteer. We need more volunteers desperately, and it's not hard to be a volunteer with us, but we want to make sure your heart and goals for why you want to volunteer are in the same alignment with ours. That's step number one. We do the same thing on the foster side. We ask these families, okay, I see you've signed up online. You would like to receive one of our programs. Tell me a little bit more why. And we make it very, very clear from the very beginning, we are not about stuff. We are not an organization that brings you a bunch of stuff and then leaves. We actually want to bring you a relationship with a healthy adult and healthy humans, and we want to be there for a long time. We want to bring you a relationship that we hope lasts a lifetime. That's what we want to do. So there are families that don't want that, and not even for a bad reason. I mean, there are some families that are just like, I'm busy, and I just don't need another person. We're good. There are people that tell me, oh my God, our church does such a great job of supporting us. We're great. I don't think I need you. But we just make it very clear that this is what we provide. And if at any point in time they start, not abiding by what we think is best for the child, we would certainly not be a part of that. But in the 4 years I've done this, I have seen nothing but incredible foster families. Like incredible. And I am not saying that doesn't exist, because I know it does. There's people that have written books about it. I've met someone that actually came to our gala last year, and she said she was a victim of that. She was in the system, and it happens. I'm just saying under our watch, it's not happening. And we're just one more layer into this very complex system.
You're an extra layer of care.
We're an extra layer of care. And I feel like when the state comes into a foster parent's house, when a therapist comes in, when a social worker comes in, they sit down. Okay, let's pick out the list. Let's check this off. Do you have a fire extinguisher? Cool. Did Sammy go to therapy this week? Cool. We come in like the fun aunties. Like, we're like, oh my gosh, how was Sam's recital? How did it go? Like, we're the family. Like, we're the fun. That's all we're bringing. We're not bringing policy. We're bringing a relationship, a healthy relationship, because we actually believe you can cure an unhealthy one with a healthy one.
Sure. So will you follow them back to the biological then as well? Or are
so that has only happened in now again, we're a young organization here in Kansas City, but that has only happened to us once. And it is that one little boy. So he had a love box leader, and he had a foster parent. He went back to BioMom. That love box leader is still working with him. So that child is back with BioMom, who is trying her best, is doing her best. And now, because of us, she has a foster family that feels like a foster mom that feels like she can talk, and a love box leader that can talk. So they're kind of all three doing it. So we have that one family that's doing it that way. It's not that we won't. Technically, right now we only work with kiddos that are in the foster care system, but we have flexibility. We're not going to leave a kid.
Right.
Like, we're not going to do something like that.
The key would be getting the biological parents to humble themselves and just kind of be like, here, people who don't have any trauma, because here, let's face it, hurt people.
Well, the percentage of parents that lose their kids who have also been in foster care,
yeah, it's
off the charts.
Right.
And It's funny, we were talking about this today in our office about generational cycles that we're curing here. Because I said, oh yeah, like those two in our video, like if they make it out okay, their kids won't have trauma, and then their kids won't have trauma. Like, it's breaking that cycle.
Yeah.
So that's something we're proud of, and that's what we want to keep doing.
So if you could get them to just like, hey, people who don't have trauma, people who have a nuclear family, need help raising their kids.
Yeah, if we need help,
You know,
imagine. That's what I'm saying.
so
I
it's
know.
like, I mean, me and my wife, you know, we have a great relationship. My mother and father had a great relationship. They
Yes.
needed help raising us.
They still needed help.
Yeah.
Well, and I've just always felt I've been so blessed. The least I can do is figure out a way to share that with somebody or something. And again, I'm not called to foster. I know I'm not. I just know that.
You got to have the patience
But
of
I've
Job.
got to do something. Yeah, but I can do something, and this is how I'm choosing to do it. And I just wish more people would think that way about a lot of issues.
My nephew fostered. And yeah, he fostered, and he brought this little baby over one. I can't remember what holiday it was, but I just
Was
felt,
he like a long-term foster? Because you also can get licensed just to be temporary. So a lot of times these agencies are overflowing. I mean, there have been times kids sleep on the floor because they have no foster home for them.
Yeah.
So you can be one of those people that they call and you just like take the baby for the weekend.
No, he was long term.
Long-term.
Yeah, and I remember the baby's name was Essie, and I'm like, I'll adopt this baby right now.
I know.
You know,
And that's
she
what
had
foster parents are saying.
She couldn't have been but a year, maybe younger than that, but she had these glasses on, and I'm like, I love this baby.
Yes.
I mean, just I'm
and
like,
that is why foster parents don't want to be called special.
Yeah.
Because they're doing what all of us good humans would do. You see a baby, you see a need, and of course you're going to help the baby.
And I kept asking him various questions, and his response was the same every time. It's not about me. Neff, how are you going to give this baby back? Not about me.
Yeah. Where's the baby now?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I
Really?
don't know. Yeah.
Oh, so the baby left him.
Yeah, the baby left him.
Oh.
Yeah. Now whether the baby went back to biological or
got adopted
or
and,
what happened, I don't know. But he just and clearly he had been telling himself this, right? It's not about me. It's not about me. It's not about me. You know. And I'm just like, man. Yeah. This baby, I you know, she sat on my lap. We were watching TV, and I'm like, I will take this baby right now.
You know, and I just think what I've learned in speaking with children in foster care that are old enough to speak about it and speaking to families that foster, they would all tell you, like, I just wish more people knew how important it is to just have somebody that cares about me. Or I wish, you know, we've run into adults that have been in foster care that have said, I just wish I would have had somebody being my cheerleader. I wish I would have had somebody just nudging me along, checking in on me. Yeah. And these families, I mean, I encourage everyone, if you know a foster family, ask them, how can I help you? How can I help this problem? Like, they'll tell you. They will literally bringing a meal to a foster family so they don't have to plan one of the 7 dinners a week is huge, huge. And that is so simple. I just, you know, there are people that are like, I got to think about it. It's like, well, what do you got to think about? Well, I mean, the Love Box program, it's 12 days in a year. It's 1 day a month. You don't have 1 day in 12 months to show up for a foster family. Like, it's just not that hard. And that's what I'm trying to normalize here in Kansas City.
Right.
Yeah. It's just easy. So
there's so much that you can do to improve the longevity.
Yeah, and I think
that's assuming that they're not getting taken away for something like the judge says, hey, this is switching districts or whatever else they do.
It's doing what we can while we're in it. And that's what, again, you know, a foster parent last year told me this. He's like, people just freeze. They don't know what to do because they don't have all the answers and they don't know what's going to happen. And it's like, you can't freeze. You should still just do something. And we firmly believe if we can just get every single child in our programs, every single family knowing about us, we can change the stats. Like, that is one of our slogans. We have t-shirts. They change the stats. Because I have yet to meet anyone that hears me list all those horrible statistics and say, yeah, that sucks. Like, yeah, I've never had anyone say that. They're always like, oh my God, that's terrible. It shouldn't be that way. So I just think you can sit around and say it shouldn't be that way or just like do your small part. And it's our marketing challenge to really communicate to our donors, to our volunteers that, you know, you brought a meal. That probably didn't seem like a lot to you, but that is changing the stats.
Right.
Like, we really want our donors, you know, on Saturday at our big gala, it was like, I want you to understand, like, if all you can give is money, give money. That's great. Like, that's whatever you can do, just do it.
Yeah.
It truly is. You
And
may not feel like it. It's fixing the big problem.
Sometimes it's easier to give money than time.
Which is, hey, we'll take your money.
Right,
I mean,
right.
we'll take your money.
Yeah.
We'll take, our nonprofit is a little unique in the sense that like the Ronald McDonald House, amazing organization. My mom worked there for 25 years. They have a big bucket of money that they always need. And they need that bucket of money to run their house that supports families of kids that are sick. We have this big bucket of money that we always need to be full so we can run our programs, but we also need a bucket full of volunteers. Because if I have all these families on our wait list and I don't have volunteers for them, I can't do anything.
Is that the rate limiting step for you? Is it money or is it volunteers or is it both?
I wish I could tell you one or the other, and I swear it's on a scale. It goes back and forth.
Right.
It's like we either have gobs of money and I don't want to say money. We either are doing great operationally. We're fully staffed. We've got all this going, and then we don't have any volunteers. Or we have 1 million volunteers because they hear somebody speak or they learn about us. And then we've got to hustle and get all these kids matched. So it's just, it ebbs and flows. And I've learned to just understand that's what it'll always do. But no, we desperately need volunteers. We desperately always need volunteers.
So you just recently had a fundraiser.
We did.
Talk to me.
Yeah.
What?
It was great. It was our best yet. It was awesome.
So what was it?
So we do a gala. That's what we call it. Big fancy gala. We decided 3 years ago. We were ready. We were kind of eking along with a golf tournament. We do a golf tournament once a year.
Not going to raise enough money.
30. Then we raised, 50. And it was okay, if we're going to really do this, we're going to have to actually raise some money. So I had 2 dear friends at the time. And I was like, hey, you two go to a lot of these things. Would you guys help us? And they of course did. And they're on our board now, and they're truly just angels on earth. But we just took our third gala, and we decided it's just a fancy, fun, educational party.
Yeah.
Because
So we used to go to the Green Tie Gala.
Yeah.
And I helped out with that.
Yeah.
And it was so much fun.
Well,
we had a ball.
And so Joe Marie and Shannon are our gala angels.
Okay.
And I went to Green Tie Gala, and that's how I kind of knew they were involved and they would be able to help us because I really didn't have any expertise in that. And our first year, the goal was we just need people to come back. And so that was the goal, but my goal personally as the executive director was I've been to a lot of those things where I leave and I'm in the car with Ryan and I'm like, what's that even about? We gave some money. I think we helped some kids. There's older people. I don't know. That was going to be my biggest embarrassing moment. Is if somebody left that gala that very first year and didn't know what the heck we did. So we hit it on the nail. We made it super fun. People wanted to come back, and they knew who we were.
And that's got to be a difficult task because
it's so difficult.
I mean, we're an hour and 10 minutes into this, and there's so many facets to it.
Oh, so many, and it's so hard because every chapter is different. But what we do, we are big fans of I just want to give you. I want to pull on your heartstrings, and I can do that in about 10 minutes. And I can do that through us learning how to do it and being effective, but I can't tell you everything. And it's not the time or the place. And so we've gotten better year after year of kind of really understanding what we need to communicate and why. And then I love having conversations like this. And these conversations normally happen after the gala, which is great. But we make it, I think we have a really unique brand. Fundraising can be fun.
Did you meet your goal?
Yeah, we raised $312,000.
I told you were going to do it. Here you have to have people. Here, listen. So I do a fundraiser. Me and my wife. We have Andrew Ross Charlie Foundation.
I couldn't go this year, but she had told me about it. And I was going to try and couldn't.
And well, hold on. We're doing it November 2nd.
Oh, we may go this year.
Yeah, so last year is when we did it in January.
Yeah,
but we partnered this year with Opus. So there's Nina's Wings, and then there's Andrew Ross Charlie Foundation, and so we donate to similar to Ronald McDonald House, but it's more. How do I want to say this? Personalized.
Yeah.
Because the person that we donated to last year actually came to the event. The family and the little girl came to the event.
Well, and I'm so glad you brought that up because we do have this uniqueness where, like JDRF, they can have kids there that have diabetes. They can have a table of kids. They can have a kid telling about how much that money helped them. Children in foster care, we do good by them. We don't show their face.
and we believe it's weirdly enough in Missouri, it's not a state law, but in most all other states, you cannot show their face on social media, in pictures, as long as they're in care. So we have workarounds around it. If they're adopted, we can show kids that aren't in care, but it's this whole extra element of like, I need everyone in that room to understand these are kids.
Well,
But I can't like have a kid there.
Think about it, though. You said it.
Yeah.
They're highly targeted for human trafficking. So then it's probably for their safety that you can't show their face.
Oh, well, and imagine if the biological parent saw a picture of them on social media at World Sun with his foster family.
Right.
I mean, that's just, there's a million reasons why it's in place.
Here, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
What percentage, this could very well be a stupid question, I'm going to ask it anyway. What percentage of parents are yielding to this process and saying, I need help. This child needs to be taken from me so that I can get help and be the dad, mom that I need to be for this child? Or is it,
the percentage I know is that the percentage I know is 50% close their doors to fostering after just 1 year.
No. I'm not talking about the foster parent.
Oh,
I'm
you're
talking about the
parents?
biological parent.
That I do not know.
Okay.
And I'm always an advocate of other nonprofits. There are nonprofits that exist in the world that are helping bio families. The state has decided that needs a lot more attention. That's all great. It is all great. That is just not what we do.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I'm just very specific on
It
this is the
100
lane we're in.
It 100%. I'm shocked that you can't be more bilateral with it as far as working on biological and foster.
We could. It's just not what we do now.
Right. You could eventually transition.
Yes.
And
to
develop
say
a
we haven't
branch.
talked about that would be lying. I mean,
Right.
it's,
Yeah, sure.
we
Because
are-
you have to believe that the
Yes.
best case scenario is for the child to go back to a healthy, happy biological parent, whether it's both of them or one of them.
We're just just getting started, and that's what's kind of fun too. Is I mean,
Sky's
our
the limit.
CEO just started this like in 2010.
Oh,
It
you're
started
right.
with just one chapter and didn't open it up to the rest of the country until 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things I think is so cool. Is we were the 21st chapter, and our goal by 2050 is we will have a chapter of Angels in every single major city. So that would look like for Missouri, Kansas City, Springfield, Columbia, St. Louis.
I just saw something.
What?
2,000 foster kids in Kansas City.
Yeah.
You couldn't give me the percentage of people who know about you, but you said it was very low.
Only because I have to get kids.
I'll hurry.
Fine.
You couldn't give me a list of,
A percentage? Yeah.
So here, who's doing your marketing?
No, well, because the percentage is so low. Like I need you guys to understand that we have so much work to do.
Right, but
Right. Like we're serving 200 kids right now. That's not near enough.
that's 10%.
Right.
Okay, so 90% don't know about you.
Right.
Okay, so how do you, somebody has to do some type of marketing.
Yep.
So how many, okay, so child A needs to go into the system.
Yeah.
So apparently a judge has to order this.
Yes.
Okay, judge orders this and the kid goes into the system.
Yes.
Okay, and then an agency
Yes.
places them with a family.
Yes.
Okay, so how many agencies are there?
There's a lot, and we call on all of them.
So you do call on them.
From day one.
So they know about you then.
They would think, but they...
Why are they not utilizing you?
When we find a good contact, they are. But that turnover rate is even more shocking.
So they'll just stop using you.
No, the case workers in a foster care agency, the turnover is insane. Cornerstones of Care, something changed there where they lost some of their state funding, so they laid off a bunch of people.
Here, listen, I'm in.
And that is just and it's part of our growth strategy is that we will eventually have a full-time staff member that all they're doing is that. But as you know, building a business, there's 10,000 things that we need to do. We just need the money to do them.
Well, and here, you guys are calling on social workers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which
But we're also we haven't just we're very good at saying we're not getting anywhere on that road. Let's try another one. I mean, we're in foster panel groups. We're trying to meet other foster parents. We're asking other foster parents.
how often
We're
are you?
going to churches. There's a million ways to find foster families, and we're doing our best to get to all of them. It's just the system is so antiquated. It's going to take a while.
So hold on. Let me think about this. You could target the people who are placing the child into the family.
Yes.
And you can target the family itself.
Yeah.
Do you have that data of such and how many? This is the family that has a child, and do you have that? Is that information privy to you?
We could ask it, but no, that's not information we would have. That's something like the Children's Division would have.
So the only people that you can call on are the social workers that are placing these kids.
Yes, it was huge. So when I started this, we had no money. So I did this with no salary for a long time, and it was just me. And so I got on the phone and had all these same questions. And you would be shocked how hard it is to find children in foster care, even though there's so many of them. So once I kind of got my contacts, those contacts, and hopefully those people know who they are, were instrumental because they got me in front of the right person. But that just, we are one little thing that they have to talk to these foster families about. And we just, I think we just get lost in the shuffle. I just think they've got all these other things that have to occur in their conversations. And it's a lot more of like, does this child have health care? Do they have the therapy set up? Do they need biological parents still get visits with their kids? Is the home safe? Have they done their training? There's so much that we're just like an ancillary. Like we're like the bow on top. And I think there's so much turnover and there's just so much stress and chaos in that world. We're not going anywhere, and we're going to keep trying. I would love I would love to talk to every CEO of every single organization. I'm going to keep trying until I do.
Well,
but it's just nothing is fast in foster care.
Unfortunately, and then you guys need to be a part of the entire process. In my opinion.
My goal would be yes. And the challenge with that on a national scale is and again, this goes back to the way the country's running it. Everything is by state. Everything. And it's completely different rules. Completely different.
Yeah.
So like how I work with foster care here in Missouri is completely different than how my friend in Atlanta runs Atlanta Angels.
Right.
And it's completely different than how my friend in Bakersfield, California runs her chapter.
Yeah.
It's so hard to make anything one size fits all with foster care. So it's evolving, and I don't have all the answers. I know that. And again, it goes back to if you get me going on like what the whole country should be doing, that's like so big. I don't know that I have the answers. I can do this. I know I can do this. And as long as I'm alive, there's always going to be kids in foster care. So I'm just going to try my best to make it so much better for them and then people caring for them. And that makes me feel better.
How many fundraisers you do a year? You probably need to do more than one.
Because
I'm thinking about this. 312,000 is fantastic.
It is, but it's
not enough.
No,
It's not even close to being close.
No, it's not. It's not. It's enough for where we're at right now.
You need an extra digit on there. You need 7 figures.
A minimum.
Yeah, you need 7
That's
figures.
where I'd like to be. We have other chapters that are doing that, and it's just they've just been around longer. It just takes time. It takes, it's funny. Shannon, and a lot of what we talk about is, you really have to earn the trust of a donor. You not only have to pull on their heartstring, you have to earn their trust. And sometimes that just takes time. Sometimes you meet somebody and they get $10,000.
Well,
but sometimes it just takes a while.
Well, and something that we always do is we'll send an email and it'll say something like, hey, because of your generosity, we were able to provide X, Y, and Z to this family, X, Y, and Z to this family. We'll send a picture of whom the money went to, and then, clearly we'll have testimonials from the people who got the money, and all these different things, and we'll send a nice email to everyone and say, this is what we were able to do because of your generosity.
Yeah.
And, last year we were able to, we raised $250,000. I think we netted about $190,000. we were able to give a little bit more than a year's worth of medication.
Yeah, that's great.
For her name's Ella, and she has
Did she go to St. Teresa?
that's her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's where my kids go.
Patton's disease.
Yeah.
If you ever want to make yourself miserable, watch Love Kennedy.
I know.
It tells you exactly about it. Have you ever watched it? It's terrible.
There are so many causes, and that's also too. I'm very aware that there are a million places you could invest your money, and we're just a sliver of that. And
Here.
so anyone that we connect with, we're there for. But yeah, we're doing all. I've never been more confident we are doing all the right things. This started with me during COVID by myself. We now have a staff of 6, and we've been extremely financially responsible. We have not thrown money at things that will not give us an ROI of serving more children.
Right.
Not a single dollar we spend it always goes to that. Every single thing, even if it's marketing, even if it's everything goes back to will this allow us to reach and serve more kids in care?
Right. Well,
And I feel so confident about that.
We'll sit there and have meetings and with the board members and the board. Sometimes there's this dialogue of, hey, if we do this, then we may lose this, or we may lose that, and I'm like, here, listen, let's not overcomplicate this, because I truly believe I'm a spiritual person. When you're doing God's work, He'll show up, and all the stuff that we're talking about, it doesn't,
Well, when he'll show up, he'll show up on his time. I love that because I think someone upstairs is aware I can't handle too much at once.
Well,
And the amount of stress that you worry when you're trying to raise all this money, and you're like, oh my God, what if one little thing goes wrong? And I always say,
they don't care.
It'll work. It'll work out. I just know that we're supposed to be doing this. I know more than ever we're supposed to be here. We raised a ton of money on Saturday. Amazing. But we were so well received.
Yeah.
We were everyone was so excited.
And you're always worried, like the devil will play games with you, like, hey, they're not going to want to donate to this, and don't do this. And I swear to you, last year, the number of people that came up to me and said, what you guys are doing is amazing.
And isn't that almost better than like $10,000?
Well, I mean,
but it's so much.
And so then after, like here, the first year we did it, we did a bowling tournament, a bowl-a-thon, and I think we raised like $4 or $5 grand. And then the second year we raised about 12 or 15, and then the next year we raised 50.
Yeah.
We filled up North Kansas City Bowl, 48 lanes, 8 people a lane.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I mean, filled it up, and then not to mention the number of people that came to the event that just showed up just to be there.
Yeah.
And then COVID happened.
Mm-hmm.
And so then now North Kansas City Bowling Alley shut down. I'm like, we don't have a bowling alley that's going to fit us. And that's when I got with Chuck and we did a bowling tournament.
I mean, that's literally what happened with COVID with us.
And
I just thought, well, we'll just start this in 2021, I guess. And my board president was like, no, we're going to do a virtual wine tasting.
It
I mean,
works
how
out.
silly is that?
Yeah.
But we did. We raised $5,000. It was perfect.
Yeah. So he shows up.
Frank,
and
I'm so sorry.
go ahead.
I
No,
had to go to
listen.
St. Teresa. Have you ever been in that car line? It's terrible.
It's brutal.
Yeah, so I have to go.
So listen.
Yes.
Tell me that. I want to know real quick. So how can people? Is there a way that they can donate online?
Thank you for asking. Shame on me for not bringing that up first. Yes. They can go to our website.
And here, make sure that we put this on the bottom of the podcast.
Thank you, Frank.
You writing this down? Thank you. Thank you very much. Go ahead.
So the best way people can help if they just like are moved by anything you and I chatted about today,
Right.
they're like, that's amazing, but I got to do. They could be a monthly donor. Monthly donors are huge for nonprofits. You probably know this. So that's called our Angel Alliance. They can sign up for that on our website. They can give any amount they want, and it'll just be a routine monthly withdrawal.
What's the website?
It's KCMOAngels.org.
KCMOAngels.org. Let's have this on the bottom of the podcast.
It's super easy, and then we have like all the social things, and it's at KCMO Angels.
At KCMO
Just
Angels.
where you can
Yeah.
find us. Yes.
Perfect.
You can stay in touch. And if anybody wants to volunteer, they just send us a message on one of those platforms. There's an info email box on the website. We've got all that stuff.
God bless you. What you're doing is awesome. If there's anything I can do to help, if you want me to use this platform, I will do
You know
it.
what I want? I
What?
want you and Michelle to come to the gala next year.
Why didn't we go this year?
I don't know.
Because she came to me. She came to me and
That's
she.
what I want you to
Didn't
do.
you guys have lunch or something?
Yeah, we had lunch with Kristen.
And I-
because Michelle really said she was like,
Kristen
I'd love
Simone.
to be.
And I told her, I said, I'm going to tell you right now, Michelle, if I take a kid, I'm keeping it. I said, so just know that.
Giving out kids.
Yeah, I said,
No.
yeah.
So
So,
Michelle wanted to be a mentor, and I told her after meeting her, you'd be a great mentor. So
Yeah.
that's why we originally met. Was she
Well-
wanted to know more about the Dare to Dream program. But
and
no, I'm being silly. But yes, we would love. One of the things we already identified with the gala, we need more people. We need people. We need you to tell 5 of your friends, and then you get a table, and one of your friends get a table, and then that's
Yep.
16 new people that have never been and never heard our message.
right.
That's how we'll continue to
Sure.
grow. But we do have other fundraising events too, and you can catch all those on the website. We have a really fun golf tournament that we're going to do in Cinco de Mayo.
Okay.
So don't plan any of your stuff on the Cinco de Mayo.
Yeah.
Come golf on ours.
Well, I don't golf, but I'll donate.
Okay, well,
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah, I don't golf. I don't play in the Simone tournament either, but I donate every year. So I hate golf. After about 4 holes, I want to choose.
Okay.
Thank you guys.